Hello and welcome to episode 15 of Dynamically Spoken with a brand new look, as you can see. We have all of us here today, Jason, Ali and Steve, who's come back for a special appearance. So wave hello everyone.
Hello.
Whoa.
We have been gone a couple of weeks, but we are now finally back and we're going to be looking at the latest patch to hit, which is Flame and Frost Retribution. But as always, we're going to join Jason with the news.
It's the news. The Flame and Frost patch came out fairly recently. We got a new dungeon, a spectator mode, PvP arenas, although those two are in beta. New world versus world abilities, new guild missions, guild siege weapons, back banners, a new retribution item, and of course our infamous patch notes. And they also changed the world versus world reset time. That's the news. This gets shorter and shorter every week.
I do have to confess that last week me and Jason did do a show by ourselves, but I never got around to publishing it, so I might just steal some of the stuff I used on that episode for this one. But let's get on with it. So the first thing I thought we'd discuss is the new dungeon that's come out, which is the mining facility, and that's kind of like the finale to the Flame and Frost thing. What do you guys think of it? Any good? Really?
It's very nice.
I really like it.
It's good, but it's not like wonderful.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not super
Drags on
impressed.
a bit.
You cynical person. I actually think it's like a really good dungeon. I mean, it's not too difficult. I think they've got the balance just right. But I don't know.
I think I'm really cynical from the fact that they've done the thing that they do every time and hype us up and then just don't deliver. Like, they told us that there was going to be changing, paths and that it's going to be different, and they've made it sound like, oh my god, we're going to be doing so many different things and there's so many different paths. All that change is one or two or something like that boss fights. Like, you can either fight trolls or embers or something else. It's not diverging paths, that's just gimmicks. So I'm a little bit frustrated by that, but I think it's a good dungeon. But yeah.
I didn't hear it. Was that a part of they're saying specifically that was for the dungeon?
Yeah, they were saying that let me see if I can find it. The dungeon has like different paths and it can change every time you enter, but really it's just the same thing.
I don't know, but I've been thinking about it, and for me at least, between this and the Super Adventure Box, it's kind of like Arena at their finest for me. I mean, it's kind of reminded of what they can do and what they're capable of, rather than, I mean, I know we've been kind of slating the other Flame and Frost things for not really delivering very much, but for me this one's delivered quite a lot. But I don't know, I haven't paid that much attention to the whole thing. I've only played through it once, but I enjoyed it.
Well, I think with the very start of the pack, they kind of knocked off a couple of people who would have been interested, like when nothing was coming out anyway.
Yeah, the pacing was terrible. Like, the whole overall package was wonderful, and I'm really glad that, and especially to do it for free, I really love the living story, and they're adding such a changing world. But dear God, who organised the pacing? Like, at the start, like, nothing for like 2 to 3 months or something like that, and then all of a sudden, bam, all this stuff is happening. It's great, but you people, when you go living story and people go, oh, what's living story, and then you give them such a boring thing at the start, they're probably going to go, oh well, this is living story, and every time there's a living story update, they don't come back into the game because they think it's as boring as that, when this bit hasn't been boring at all. It's been very interesting.
Yeah, and does anyone else think that, like, there's missing a backstory? Like, the pacing's just gone. It's like, okay, now there's two people who want to save the world. There's this army who want to kill you, but we don't know why, and we don't know why. But they're dead, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
So, yeah, that's basically the story for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that, like, what ArenaNet is doing is kind of, I don't know what game has tried this before. Probably people know. I think some people might have mentioned that maybe Lord of the Rings did something similar to this, where they had something that can directly affect the game. But I think whenever you do something new in a new world, especially because Guild Wars 2 engine is completely proprietary, so these are all systems that they're going to have to test. And also from a logistics point, they now know because of, you know, like say your feedback that that now that okay, maybe the pacing wasn't good. You know, it's like the first time, if you're a party planner, your first party, unless you're lucky, is probably not going to be your best party.
Yeah.
You know, as you go, then you kind of learn like, okay, this is what people want, this is what people need. So I think for the first try, and especially like you said, because it's free content, like you just can't go wrong, because you now know that this is the direction that they want to head, that they want to give us more engaging experiences. Because typically it's been, for other MMOs, it's been dungeons. You get a dungeon, you grind a dungeon, and then you just get put on the treadmill, where you have to just keep grinding until you get all gear. Now they're saying, okay, we're going to give it, like, where we're going to actually give you some story. We're going to give you something to build up upon. And, of course, our imaginations go into the fantastical world we like it to. And we imagine this glorious thing of, like, you know, the main character bestowing the key just to us because we have accomplished, like, a certain specific thing that nobody else does. And that's not possible. And now that maybe they could fine-tune it where it feels more and more like that in the future. And you have to feel confident, because I think what ArenaNet does really well is they have really good story people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also the art too is really excellent.
The one thing that could make the story feel very lackluster, apart from the fact that the pacing isn't right, is that there actually is a lot more coming. The whole thing with the Consortium and South Sun Cove is something that they're alluding to, which is going to be another whole living story, but obviously ties into the Molten Alliance. So that we think that, I feel like I was expecting a very summary, like it was all one instant sort of thing, like the box is going to be closed, but obviously there's a lot more information coming. For example, in the next bit that they release, which is meant to be the final conclusion, they tell you who your nemesis is. So hang on, they can't just complete their nemesis in one tiny little update. So obviously they're planning to bring over your nemesis into the next story, which obviously they don't want to give away that, you know, other story. So thus it feels very empty and there's not very much story, but perhaps they're planning to let it all loose and then, you know, don't want to spoil the surprise for the next bit.
No, yeah, I mean, I think any good story, it like eventually evolves into, you know, at the beginning of the story, whenever you start reading the story, you're always like wanting more information. Like, well, why did they tell me this and why did they tell me that? Because if every box was closed in a good story, then it wouldn't be a good story, because you knew everything already. And that's what kind of makes stories last more, is that you kind of have to fill in the own information. And that's how you can customize it to make it feel like it's your story as well.
Surely I can't be the only one thinking this, but there must be somebody else like me who would prefer them to make an expansion pack than this. Like, I can't be alone there, because it just feels like everybody is focusing on the living story as far as we're aware. All the devs and all of the Super Adventure Box content and stuff like that. And they're coming out with this stuff once a month, which is great, but there's nothing that I like there.
Yeah.
Because there's just the pacing's bad, and the characters, it's just... And I'd prefer an expansion pack.
But it was just one. You know, it's not like this is the history of it being something.
No.
I think it's too soon for an expansion pack. People will go, oh, it's just a money rip-off, you know. I think they're trying to, like, build their brand by going, look, we give you tons of free content, you know, that sort of thing, so that way you can get more people into it. And then when it's not too soon, they'll do a, expansion. So a lot of people... Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think a lot of people haven't killed the Elder Dragon yet. So I think they're, like, trying to get it all out there, you know, try and give people a lot of time, because what's the point of continuing on and killing the next dragon if you haven't killed the first dragon and you're missing out all this information? And who the hell is Traherne? Dear God, I hope he's not in the expansion pack.
But I was kind of sold on the story of the dragons when this game came out, and I wanted that. And then, like, I played the game and I was like, Traherne, you've ruined this for me. But I was still willing to play it because I still like the dragons and it's still a really good game. But now they're just not doing that, and my heart hurts.
Yeah.
But no, the free content's great.
Yeah, as much as we complain, it's free, and we obviously love the game because we're playing it. But I think, definitely this feels like the dragons have taken a back seat.
which I don't like.
So, should we move on to PvP? Because Steve is here, and he's like a PvP god. So in this patch, we got custom arenas and spectator mode. I haven't yet done any PvP, so I haven't got a chance to check it out. Have any of you other three?
I did a little bit of spectating. I watched a few matches using spectator mode, but that's about the extent.
Steve?
Yeah, I definitely got a look at the spectator, and it just goes to show you, like, when you start to realize, like, how much work that ArenaNet does and has to do at the same time. Like, you know, if you think about it, okay, they're doing all this stuff to World v World, and the World v World is massive. And they're doing all this stuff to structured PvP, and structured PvP is probably its own entity, so to speak. Your character is totally separate.
Yeah.
And then you have, like, all this living story stuff. So kind of like when I reflect upon that, I learned to appreciate it more, and again, give them a little bit of time, because you know they're working hard. The worst job in the world is being a game developer, because you have kids judging your product.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, you know, we don't know how long it takes them to do this stuff. And that's when you start looking at stuff like spectator mode and custom arenas. And I start thinking about, like, well, you know, when I compare, like, that to, like, let's say a game browser in an FPS, like Call of Manbro Field 3 Modern Battlefield. You know, it's like all those ones where, like, you have, like, so many different filters. Like, you could filter based on game type and all this other stuff. And, like, now that you have that in your mind, you transfer that over to Guild Wars 2, and you expect, like, these filters to be just as good, and they're not. And you expect the spectator modes to be just as good, and they aren't. And the visibility, you know, a lot of people say it's like, when they do this stuff, they don't make it for the person who knows the game, like all of us. They're trying to attract the people who don't know the game. So they have to do things a certain way. Like, they want to do, and they made some interesting design choices. Like, there's no free flying in spectator mode. Like, you can't just use WAS and fly around all over the battlefields. They have, you either follow somebody, you can zoom in and out, or you go to, like, camera vision. So basically, they'll have, so to speak, the whole entire arena scoped out to security cameras. And at these security cameras, you could look at the battlefield up above. And, you know, people ask, well, why did you choose that from a design standpoint instead of, you know, making people just make their own, or, you know, flying through? So, like, well, basically the issue is when you're broadcasting, they basically said, like, we want to appeal to the broadcasters. They're going to be the people who attract the person who doesn't know much about the game. And the broadcasters, they basically said they want quick access to different parts of the battlefield. And that was a design choice, to have quicker access. And they can just click the eye and bounce around to the battlefield.
Yeah.
So that was something good.
It definitely looks like, when you're looking from the towers or you're following someone, it definitely looks more professional. Like, for example, maybe a real game or something like that. It looks very classy, is the word, I think.
Yeah.
Compared to, like, when you watch League of Legends or Dota games. You know, they're just kind of, like, zooming around, flying around, and I find that a little bit hard to follow myself.
Exactly, because when they click on a camera, you know the view that you're going to get. So they're basically, every time they click on a certain camera, it's going to be, okay, there's a hallway this way. So the person will know every time they go to this camera, the hallway's going to be that way. Or the person can be that way. So they know when somebody says, like, hey, they're going to use the hallway, they know, okay, I know the hallway's over here. It's not like they're going to, okay, where's he, what? And they have to get themselves oriented. So I think that was, if the more you think about it, because these are the things that people complain about, or they think that could be changed. And it shows you how much that ArenaNet is thinking about this stuff. Because a lot of the biggest problems, and a lot of the reasons why people of, like, Legacy left Guild Wars 2, certain members of Team Paradigm have left, like, a lot of people left the competitive scene is because they didn't feel that ArenaNet was thinking about it. They didn't feel that, well, the game should have been released with spectator mode already down or whatever.
I think there's a lot of reasons why they left. For example, there's just no variety, and if you're just if you're just PvP and you're playing Guild Wars, you've really got nothing. There's no like types of games, different PvP thing. There's no certain like different types. It's all just everyone attack, 5-on-5, that sort of thing. Capture, you know. And they did add some. I think they added some different ones and new maps and stuff like that. But it's very boring. Like no guild versus guild, no different things. You know, no free for alls. It has to be 5-on-5. And I can completely understand why they left, because there's no variety, there's not enough for them to, you know, progress through. Leaderboards only came in recently, so they don't even get the prestige of being on the leaderboard. So yes, if you're a PvP, I would definitely understand if you feel like ArenaNet isn't thinking about you, which is. Come on. No, you haven't talked at all.
We talked about this entire subject. People I do know who are hardcore PvPers. The main complaint now is that Conquest has no variety in, as you were saying. There's no, there's only a couple of real ways to sort of win. Like whereas in Guild Wars 1 you'd have a game mode and there was lots of different tactics you could apply. There was a big variation, but that's not there now. It's their biggest complaint, which I've taken on.
Yeah.
Like what different guild modes were in Guild Wars 1?
There were a lot. That's all I know.
For one, Guild versus Guild in Guild Wars.
That's, you know, yeah.
That's the one they highlight.
That's the one that really boggles my mind. Like, how do you release a game called Guild Wars without Guild versus Guild? Like,
you're going to get everybody complaining about the lore side of that in the comments now.
But it's depressing because Guild Wars is actually based on PvP. When they actually made the game, they were just thinking in PvP terms. Yeah. And it seems like Guild Wars 1, I'm not complaining because I just do PvE. That's all I really do, and every now and then I dabble in PvP and enjoy it. But they've just completely turned it on its head. First one was all about PvP. It was based off PvP, and this one very much feels like it was based on PvE, and they've just tacked on PvP on the side.
Do you think these changes...
I mean, I think...
Go on.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, do you think these changes are enough to start off the Guild Wars 2 esports scene? Because it seems like they're really trying to focus on getting that going, but I'm not so sure if it's too little too late now.
I think they've lost a lot of people.
Definitely.
They did lose a lot of people, and it's unfortunate the ways that right now we're spoiled. Like, we are spoiled rotten. We're like a 5-month-old banana, or like you know what I mean? Like, we're used to like games coming out, and these games are free now. Like, free. You could get a game that's you could spend 80 hours a day on, or a week on, and not have to pay anything for it. And this is the nature of the beast, that it's a wonderful time to be a gamer. And now that gamers have options, they tend to leave. But in saying that, there's a few things that I'm really happy about as far as that. Because I did kind of take a break myself, as you guys well know.
Yeah.
They, with the spectator mode, with the custom arenas, in the custom arenas you can define your own battle styles. So, like, they had one yesterday where it was 3-on-3 and it was 15 points. So, and no respawn. So basically, you could basically make where the first person to kill the other team wins, and that was it. So, and just by like tweaking the system. And if you look at the patch notes, they're at the link. I'll give it to Rowan. The link where they you guys might have seen it, but they say what you can configure. There is a lot of stuff you can configure in that to make it so it allows the people, like, let's say some of, you know, like Jay, your friends, they want to make their own type. It'll hopefully give them the tools now to do that. And I think this is really critical into establishing it, is giving freedom. And it'll probably end up being 5v5 point control, because that is the best way for competition, is through that means. But if for some reason something else takes off and people want to do it that way, they now can. And the custom arenas are really... Sorry, go ahead.
I think it comes to marketing. For example, if you say custom arenas, that's like, yes, you get so much more variety. You can make your own arenas and stuff like that. But people are very certain-minded. Like, if you don't see you know, we're introducing this playstyle and we're facilitating this certain playstyle. So we see Capture the Hill, we see this one, we see this one. Like in LoL or Dota, if people don't see that, they're very much like, it almost doesn't exist. Like, yes, you can almost do the exact same in custom arenas, but to them it just, you know, it's a little bit like, it doesn't quite compute in the sense of marketing. You know, you need to tell them that you can do this sort of playstyle and you can do this sort of playstyle to really get this esports scene, to get people into it and get people to know those sort of things. So, yes, I think that it definitely can't get into the esports scene just on custom arenas and spectator mode. They need to do a lot more marketing if they really want to get into the esport. They need to do marketing to get people into it too. So there's different play styles, that things are set out that people know what's going on. Which
I have like a mind blowing experience for everybody. If you want to get your mind blown,
go on.
Okay.
structured PvP is free.
Mm.
Jason,
if you're only going to play structured PvP, it's not worth the money for the game for most people. But if you make that part of the game free, where it's just a download, then there's no barrier to entry. Barrier to entry is just what you want to learn.
Like games like LoL does really well on that free.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you just give them the free, it's more likely to become an esport. People can try it out without having to pay the $80. But
and if you wanted with the skins and stuff that you like, if you bought the game, you get the skins and everything, right? Like you can customize the way your character looks. If you want to customize the way your character looks and you're playing it for free, you gotta buy it. So you have monetization, and that'll probably earn you more money because people love the way they look.
Yeah. Anything else to mention with PvP?
John? Why not, John?
No.
Okay. What else came with this patch? Because
so there was a lot of balancing stuff that went on. Yeah. Just so you guys know, whenever they say, what is it called? A skill. What's the wording? They use a wording. Skill fact. A skill fact is a tooltip. Just so you guys know, in Guild Wars too. So that some people were a little bit, about that. So basically, the most important thing is all passives got buffed on signets. So like Elementalists, their signets, they got buffed. Guardians and Warriors as well. Don't know about Rangers. I don't think Rangers got. So basically, they did. Yes. So they have signets. So basically, what they did is because I was watching a podcast about it, and John Sharp basically said that, well, the way we had it now, it didn't give the person a choice. There was no reason not to use a signet. Like, you just used it when you needed it. And what they wanted to do is they wanted to make it like there was more of a choice of, okay, I could use my signet in this instance, but I'd rather have the passive. So they basically doubled the power of all signet passives, which is a pretty remarkable change. And it went from like 90 to 180 on them, I think.
It doubled
so
it.
that was excuse me, that was like a sizable increase on those, which it could be changing a lot for a lot of people. So we'll see how that develops. Another big change as far as with Elementalists is Ride the Lightning. So if you're confused when you read it, Ride the Lightning has a 40-second cooldown now, so they doubled it. However, if you hit somebody with Ride the Lightning, it puts it back down to 20. It basically halves it. So basically what they were trying to do is how a lot of times when you're running away, you could just ride the lightning to nothing, and then you would have that constant 20-second cooldown. They're basically saying require more skill. Where if you're going to ride the lightning away, or ride the lightning in, so to speak, without a target, you're going to now be penalized for that. So it's going to give a little bit more skill cap on, which I think is good, because I've seen people do creative stuff like they'll ride the lightning to a rabbit in World v World, so they have it, and that's something where a person would have to like be consciously aware of a tiny little rabbit hopping around and ride the lightning to it to get away, which is cool, and I think that would be something to talk about whenever you have VODs.
I think they're too enthusiastic. Was this only done in PvP, or was this on all over the board? It was all over all boards, wasn't it? Because
it just says there's no qualifier to it. It doesn't say PvP here.
See, that really has... What they're trying to do is encourage you to use it aggressively, which is what it was designed for, rather than, trying to get away. Which
exactly
really has no bearing on PvE. On PvP, it seems pretty important that be in there, because you don't want elementalists to be able to get out of every fight so easily. But on PvP, it seems a little bit silly, it just really doesn't have any bearing on PvE, because if you use Ride the Lightning once to get out of mobs, you're pretty much out of them, you don't have to really worry about the cooldown. So I see a lot of changes that are meant to change the way PvP players are doing it, but it's also affecting how PvE players, hope I got that the right way around, are playing. Which worries me, in this case, it's not such a big thing. It's not like, oh, I'm not going to play the game anymore. It's more like I'm getting concerned about it. If it's affecting things in PvP, are they going to start penalizing me?
I think that's a great thing to talk about, and that's something we should definitely talk about how they're splitting skills now. I think that's definitely something important to come back to.
Jason.
We just lost someone.
Yeah.
I'm back!
Yay. Oh my god, that's very cool.
So another really big adjustment they did as well is the misform, where in misform you can't use your utility skills anymore, which is really big, because you used to be able to misform and then heal while you're in misform, and then you're basically invulnerable and you're healing. And there was another one that would like proc heals from spellcast or something like that, where you could basically, almost fill up your health bar, going from being completely dead, hit an instant cast, stun break, and be full health. So that's definitely a big change.
Yeah, this one has my guild very divided. A lot of elementalists are going, well, this is my playstyle, it's not fair, yada yada, and then other people are going, well, actually, I think this is how Guild Wars, how the developers wanted it to be played. Like, they never intended you to be able to misform, heal yourself, cast a glyph, because you can cast glyphs in misform as well. So I think, it's really got people divided about that. And they also, one build, they also affected Cleansing Burst, which used to be if you... which is a trait, and you could get rid of conditions, but now they changed it to you could only get rid of conditions every 5 seconds, which affects my build because that's the way I run my LE, but in a sense it's like, well, I understand their point of view the same as I understand their point of view of changing misform. It sucks, but I get where they're coming from.
Yeah, because you elementalists are overpowered.
No, my lovelies.
Fight!
Didn't they make any change to ranger pets in this as well? Didn't they try and improve them or something?
Yeah, ranger pets. There's others. I'll skip out of elementalists. I'll go to rangers now. So basically, with rangers, they buffed the hell out of ranger pets. Like, ranger pets
they've got a massive health increase, haven't they?
Oh, they needed it.
Armor and health. They needed it, yeah, because they used to just send them in and be like crumble.
For me, being on a roleplay server, I attached to my pets. I called my little bear Pudgy and all this sort of thing. And when you send them into battle, and I'm such a girl. Anyway, when you send him into battle, it's just like sending him to commit suicide. That's what it feels like. You're just like, all right, that one's dead. Pop in the other one. That's not.
It's like name your pet Bonsai and send him in.
They may as well have just taken that on Necromancer sound effect that's like, I'll get another one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so like sending him into suicide, I think, is very much against how the ranger's meant to feel and play. It's meant to feel like a pet is your little companion, and he follows you around and is cute and adorable, and then you send him in to die. And then you have like voice acting for when he dies, like, "No, I'll revive you," if you're a Sylvari or something like that, or "No, not
Yeah.
my pet," that sort of thing. So they're trying to make you feel about him, and then you're just sending him to die. I'm so glad they upped the armor and vitality.
Should be like, no, not my pet. I'm so bad at this.
I'm such a bad pet owner.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny though. Like when in structured, like the guys are like I was watching some of the structured guys from Paradigm play, and they're like, just get this eagle off of me! Somebody kill the eagle! Like they're running. You see this like little eagle like slowly coming after like Jason in the Friday the 13th, and like the guy's just running away on his head. He's like, just check this eagle! It's killing me! Oh my god! It hit me for 6,000. Not really. But, so yeah, they did that, and they got the same. Oh, and also they made, because was quickness, is that, or is it vigor? Which is the one that, or haste, the haste one? Is that quickness?
Haste is moving faster. Quickness is attacking faster, and
Yeah,
vigor is. This is how I attack. And vigor is getting more endurance.
Yeah. So they nerfed quickness, and so what they did is a lot of them, like Quickening Zephyr, they increased the duration a little bit. And here's something that is huge. On some of them, I think the Warrior one, the damage you take was like lessened from 75 to 50, which is tremendous.
Oh.
Because whenever you used to do quickness on Warrior, you used to just get murdered. Yeah, I think I forgot which one it. Yeah, it got reduced from 50 to 25% more damage on Frenzy, so which is tremendous. And they increased the duration by 1 second. And with the Ranger version, you used to not be able to get healed at all. Mm-hmm. Now you're getting healed 50%. So there was a 50% bonus
yep.
or reduction to the negative effects that happened with quickness on Ranger and Warrior, which is huge. I mean, it's game changing because you used to not be able to get healed at all.
Mm.
And again, the 1 second duration, that's pretty awesome.
Are there any other sort of major build patch? What
that was major.
No, you know what I mean, like major ones. Because
how is that? Major HCH engineers. There was a basically HGH is a skill. Is it number 11? I think in the number 4 trait line. I think. Or was it the first line? One of the lines. It's HGH. It's you got to go to 30 to get it. You can check it out in Structured. And basically, it was you use elixirs and grenades a lot, and you stack might consistently because there's another trait that you put to continually stack might. And burning it basically it's a really high skill cap, but you'd be able to own everybody if you got it right with kiting. And basically, they're bringing that down a little bit, where they reduce the burning cooldown timer. I think it's so it can't burn all the time at 33%. It's 100%. It could burn, but the cooldown was put from 3 seconds to 10 seconds. And they actually increased the burning duration to 4 seconds. So I don't know what they're trying to do something a little bit different instead of like just straight nerfing it because they want it to be effective. The other thing is the Elixir S, I think. Elixir S, Elixir X, or U. Whichever one is the one where you get shrunk to a little guy and you run around and you're invulnerable. That's getting the same nerf that happened to Elementalists, where you can't use your utility skills, which is huge. So you can't use your utility skills when you're... yes, Elixir S, when you use that one. And they did a lot of small changes with that.
Alright, is that it for the big skill changes?
Necromancers.
Yeah, go on.
Yes, Necromancers got all their golem stuff, their health increased. Fleshworm got 25%. Flesh Golem got not only 25% health increase, but also 10% toughness increase. And Lich Form got an ability now where it strips boons from enemies and conditions from allies.
Sounds pretty good.
It says when it reaches the target point instead of only when the missile hits the target. So when Grim Spectre reaches, it'll strip everything. I think that's to make it a little bit more easy to understand. And if you guys are going crazy, like, how did they do this and not do that and the other thing? Basically what they said is they wanted, like, whenever you do changes, they want to try to make them smaller changes, because when you do large changes, it could have unintended consequences.
Yeah, I remember.
Like, you don't know what's going to happen. So basically, they try small things, and then they see if it works, and then they'll maybe add on. Like, some of them were saying, well, why don't you just do this and this? And they're like, well, because we want to know what this does first before we keep on going to something else. And there, again, it's as usual, whatever, when devs speak to us, they're always urging us to be patient, because we're not.
It's very true.
Alright, then. Has anyone else got anything to bring up before we wrap it up?
Did we mention gem store items?
Don't think so. Do you want to give it a bash?
So basically they introduced Rox's quiver and a bow, which is a devourer bow. So and then they also introduced Brum's mace and Brum's shield, which also looks very nice. But the biggest thing in my mind, being a cutesy witchy little girl I am, they had introduced all these cute little mini pets, and obviously for the next, I think, week they're doing the hippo calf, and then they plan to introduce all these other little tiny cute mini pets, which include a kitten, a cub, a moa chick.
What's a hippo calf?
Haven't you seen it? They're everywhere.
Baby
Everywhere. Is it the calf of a hippo?
Yeah, it's a little cute little... Anyway, so they're really adorable and shiny, and that was introduced in the gem store. And I think a new toy was also introduced, which was the dredge theme mining drill, and you can drill underground, and people absolutely love it. So,
I've seen that.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people loving the quiver. The quiver's pretty hot.
Yeah, the quiver is really good for people who want to look like a ranger, who want to look authentic with their bow without having to spend the ridiculous money getting the ascended back piece.
Definitely.
Anything else from anyone?
Absolutely.
I think that's about it. What are you patting, Jason?
Well,
I don't like how you lowered it.
So, I mean, the one thing that I definitely did want to talk with you guys about is now how they're you see this more and more that they're dividing skills, and I wanted to know what you guys think about that.
As in PvP and PvE.
Yeah, like some are even only
that.
some. Yes, they were. They wanted to. They said they weren't against it. They said we want to try to avoid it at all costs because it makes things confusing.
Yeah.
I think it's bringing us back to this issue of them trying to push Guild Wars 2 as an esports, personally, because they seem to be focusing more and more on trying to get things right for PvP. Like you mentioned, like the Ride the Lightning skill, mainly focused towards PvP, how they've changed it. So, I don't know, that's what I think, or the reason behind it anyway.
Yeah, you don't...
I mean, even if they do that, like, if they do that and it's... so it doesn't affect PvE, isn't that a good thing, though? Like, because they're only saying, well, this only happens in PvP, or this only happens in World v World, or both, or...
Well, yeah, I suppose.
I think a big thing that they wanted to avoid when they said they didn't want to split it up was making people feel like they can go from PvE to PvP quite easily, because the skills are essentially the same. However, they're running into a very dangerous ground of making PvE people resent PvP, and they could do it the other way. If they made skills more PvE oriented, they will make PvP people resent PvE. But because obviously PvP, oh my god, I'm saying P too much, is more important to them at the moment, it is making PvE people resent PvP people. So it's very dangerous grounds, and I would much rather that they divided. Like, of course, try as much as you can to keep them close together, but you don't want to. You obviously made the game originally for PvE people, and now you're turning to PvP people. It's very difficult, and you're going to run into a very dangerous area where you're going to make them resent each other instead of bringing them together.
I mean, they did it pretty successfully in Guild Wars 1, splitting up the PvP and PvE versions, so I don't really see... I'm not really against it in Guild Wars 2 or anything.
No, me either.
Yeah.
Whatever works best.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think they could definitely divide. You know, I think it's good for the game.
Yeah.
For them dividing it.
Anything else then, or should we wrap it up? What is it? Oh, it's Ritlock. It's Ritlock.
How do you not know? Come on. Come on.
It looks very blurry at one eye. At one point, I thought it was a dragon with one eye.
So if you want, I'll do like a couple plugs. Blue 42 on Twitch. He's doing shoutcasting now. Tehmaker, Tehmaker, they're doing shoutcasting. They're starting to hold tournaments. I believe Curse Esports is going to do a structured PvP tournament. Paradigm's going to do a structured tournament. So there is. It looks like people are excited, which is a good thing. It may not bring everybody back, but at least people are excited and they're starting to do events. You know, small cash prizes because they're not sponsored yet. And hopefully, Internet will continue to push and it'll bring a lot of us back to the game.
I hope so.
But people are excited now.
I kind of would like to see it.
No.
I kind of would like to see it kick off as an esport, just because I'm quite a competitive type, so I'd be on that. But right, I think that's about it for this episode then. So thanks to Ali, Jason, and Steve for joining us on this episode, and we will be back next week. Remember, podcast@guildmag.com is the email address to send all your comments and everything into. You can also use the comment system on the GuildMag website or on YouTube below, and the link to all our Twitter accounts will be in the show notes if you want to contact us that way as well. And,
yes, contact us and tell us how lovely we are.
That's about it, so we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.